Hi guys, Nigel here with you in the on a nice cloudy sort of what is it today? It's a Wednesday afternoon, and here we are with the introduction to part 6 of our B52 build for beginners. And you might be wondering, why am I outside? And no, it's not one of these clever zoomy background things. The reason I'm here is I will show you now. I'm up at RAF Fairford, and as you can see, we've got in the distance there, we've got 6 B52Hs sat there looking lovely. And one of them is being worked on a bit. This one, where's my finger? Where's my finger? This one here, that one there, that one there is being played with a lot. It just had an APU going or something. So yeah, then we got the airfield over here, and we're expecting a U2 in any time soon. So, and this is the very bottom end of the airfield. This is the end of the runway. So if the U2 does come in and needs the whole runway, we might see it. So anyway, that's our B52Hs. Come to visit us in the UK. So thanks for sending them, Donald. I'll see you all in a minute for the rest of the build. And so we are back at the bench now, back home, and yeah, I really enjoyed that today. I sat there for about an hour and a half and just looked at them, and not really much going on. They were doing some work, and they started an APU up at one point, but saw the U2 come in. Unfortunately, it only used half the runway, so didn't come anywhere near me, but saw it in the distance. It was the one with the big pod on the back and everything. So yeah, all good stuff. Right, so part 6. Part 5, if you remember, we glued the fuselage legs in, and I clamped them up in there to let them dry. So that's been going hard overnight. So they're sorted now, so we can take those clamps out. Now they've gone in there and they're nice and solid in there, so that's all good, and that's how we want them. So we'll leave them to one side. We also need to do the fuselage, the undercarriage legs on the other side of the fuselage, and we also need to, if you remember, we fitted this bomb door in part 5. We're also going to do the bomb door in this side now. So I've got the parts cut off, and if we look in our old monogram instructions, here we are, we're over here. We've got part 17 is the retainer, and then we've got the actual door itself is part 16. It's telling us to paint the inside. I'm not bothering because I'm going to close my bomb doors up, get rid of this false detail, and basically get rid of all the big toy-like hinges and stuff. So as I said in part 5, I will show you how to do this and make it work, and then I will glue them up afterwards. So for those of you that want to have your bomb doors opening or display the model with the bomb doors open, because B52, I believe, if you want to tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm sure I read somewhere that B52s always have their bomb doors open when they're parked. I'm guessing they're hydraulically operated, and when they turn the engines off and they lose hydraulic power, just like the flaps, it all just drains down or bleeds down. So we'll put this in. Remember, we've got those 2 little cutouts in there that are going to go up in there. So there we are. And certainly those B52s I saw today, they had their bomb doors open. So that's gone in there like that. That side doesn't want to stick down as well as the other one did. I don't know why that is. It's crazy. It's got, oh, I can see why. There's sink marks in the middle of those pads, and the glue is in the sink marks. So obviously the glue is not actually touching where the pad goes. So I'm going to put the glue along the bottom edge and then try again. That's better. So we just hold that in place for a minute or two, and then put a drop of extra thin in there, which will get it biting a bit quicker. Drop in there, drop in there, and a drop in there. Now, as I say, I've not been so careful on this side as I was on the other, but I have shown you how to do this and ensure that you don't end up locking your doors up, you know, gluing them in one position. can hold that in place now. The door's still free to go. I'm going to see if I can get a clothes peg on there. See if I can get in there to clamp it. Well, that was good, wouldn't it? Just pulled the... This is crazy, it doesn't seem to be holding it in at all. Right, so let's have this door up in that position. And this is the problem, these older models with these working parts, it never really works out too good. It's always causing problems, which is why I plan to glue these closed. Having said that, if the you know, if it's more accurate to have it stood on the ground with its doors open, then maybe I should do that, but I think I would much rather have them closed. Let's get that down in position. And there we go, we'll let that dry and then we'll come back to it. So now we need to look at this, adding the undercarriage legs into the other half. I know it says do the cockpit first, but I want to get this done so we can clamp it up and let it dry overnight, let it all go hard. So we've got our two parts here that you remember we painted before. They're called plate 23. So they're all done. We've got our fuselage half here, all our painted bays, and we've got our undercarriage legs here. So the same as before, it's just they're shorter. We're going to basically be putting these in like so. Okay, now the Revell instructions tell you to glue these together and then put them in. I would seriously stick to the monogram method because it makes life a lot easier for you. So we'll put some cement in there. Looks like the nozzle's dried up. Let me get that sorted. Okay, so got the nozzle unblocked and we've got some glue in there now, so we can just come along with this leg, slot it in just like we did on the other side. Get the pins in, make sure that thing is sat above, and there we go. So we've got the top engaged there, we've got the two pins engaged down there, and we got it down on the floor here. And on this side it doesn't look like the fuselage is trying to push it away, but we will clamp it anyway. And I'm going to come along here with some extra thin, just drop that in there, drop in there, and a drop in there, just to make sure we got some good weld action going on. And then I'm going to clamp it. In fact, what I'll do is I'll get the front ones done first, and then I'll clamp them both together, and then we can put it to one side. So once again, put the leg in like so. I'll put some glue. We'll put some glue in these mounting positions here. And come along, slot this. Oh dear. If I want to do this till, let's see if I can hold that in there. No, you can't, can you? I've got a load of B52 resin parts just here, and they're getting in the way. I'm going to have to get myself another bench, I think. So we'll have a bench for doing resin, and we'll have a bench for videos. There we go. So we'll get that up on top of there. Get that in like that. So that's sat in there. Get some extra thin up in the top. Make sure that's nicely solidly stuck down. And then we'll get some clamps on here, I think. I didn't put any glue in those pins, did I? So get some glue in those pins, just like so. And then I'll get a clamp on here. Wedge that down, and then we'll get a clamp on here. Just pull that one down. That's interesting. If you tighten that clamp up too much, look, it opens the fuselage up and it pulls it away up the top, so you need to be careful of that. There we go, that's it, clamped in position like that. Just going to put a drop of glue in here and a drop of glue in there. There we go, job done. See, this bomb bay door is a lot better than the other side. So right, we'll put that to one side now on the box to dry, just like we did with the other one, and we can look at doing something else. Okay, so now we're going to move on to steps 4 and 5, which is basically covering the cockpit. So we're going to be painting everything up and painting the pilots and everything, and I'm also going to jump ahead to here because we've got the rear gunner going in, so we're going to paint him as well at the same time because all the colours will be pretty much the same. So we're putting the pilots in and we're putting the gunner in because we're going out of the box. I never put pilots in model aircraft. In fact, this is probably the first time I've done it in 40 years. I don't know. So we need to get our parts off. So I've got the first sprue that I come to, and I've got a pilot here which is absolutely covered in flash. So we'll just trim him off there. So we've got a pilot there. There's another one here which previously broke off the sprue, so we've got that one there. So those are 2 pilots. Then we've got these seat backs. Where did I see them? Not on here, clearly. We've got our joysticks, control sticks, number 27. Careful when you cut these off. If you've got great big cutters, big chunky things, be careful because you might snap it. So just go very careful and use the very end of the cutters to cut them. In fact, I will show you with my cheapo cutters here. If you go in like sort of in like this and you're halfway up, you might break something. So use the very tip and always have the flat side towards the part. Use the very tip and you should be okay. And this is where these little Tamiya type nippers come in really handy because you can cut parts without putting any side load. Remember I showed you before, I think it was in part 4, how you push the parts to the side. So we've got those off now. So we've got our control sticks now. We've got our instrument panel there, which is part number 24. So we can take that one off like so. And then we've got our cockpit, or we've got the rear gunner here. Okay, and then we've got our seat backs, wherever they may be, I can't find them. We've got our cockpit floor here, which is very basic indeed. And then I need to find the seat backs, which I can't seem to see at the moment. There they are. Gone blind in your old age, Nigel. So there's one there. So that's that taken care of, and the other one's missing off the sprue, so I just hope it's in my bag of fallen off parts. It was in the bag of fallen off parts. So there we go. So now we've got all our parts off and we need to look at doing some cleaning up. So first of all, if you look at these pilots, the amount of flash they've got around their legs is just crazy. So we'll give them a little clean up with a knife initially. Just like so, and cut the flash away, and then his boots I'm going to cut right into the corners. I don't think you need to fuss too much about, you know, the boots and everything, because you're not going to see hardly any of them anyway. Even their heads and stuff will be hardly visible. And then on the bottom, what we'll do is we'll cut this flash off with the nippers like so, and we'll get in there and take that off as well. And flash, as I explained before, it's just basically where the plastic has actually you've got the two mold halves, and then the pressure or the volume of plastic or whatever gets too great, or the mold becomes worn, the plastic is forced between the two mold halves, and that's it. Okay, so there we go. We've got a lot of mismatch on there. Unless that's, well, that's supposed to be his goggles up over. I thought that was mismatched or not, but it's not. It's his visor, so that's fine. So we've just cut away that. Got some more down here. Look, we'll cut that away. As I say, don't make too much fuss about this because no one's ever going to see the pilot's legs anyway. Once all the fuselage is closed up. And then we can take a sanding stick and just go over the bottom of his feet, make sure they're flat, remove that flash from in between his legs. Ooh, misses. Glad this not doing this on a real person. And there we go. As you can see, proving a bit of a nightmare to get off. I think I may need a new blade. Okay, so I'm going to do the other two pilots the same way, and then or the other pilot and the gunner, and then I'll come back and we'll do some sanding and stuff. Okay, so I've cleaned the pilots up. Just gone around them with this little soft sponge sanding stick. This is one of the Flory skinny sticks, and yeah, it's done quite a nice job. Basically, what I'm really worried about is the helmets and the head areas and getting those sort of cleaned up. So we've got the oxygen mask on them there. We've got the goggles over the top, and then the helmet. So bit of painting, bit of a wash and that, and they'll look okay. So now we've got to clean these parts up. So we've got our bits to take off the sprue nibs there. So take these off. Okay, and then I'll come along with this is a 220 grit sanding stick, which is worn out, so it's probably more like a 400. So there we go. That's that taken down. Then we've got little tiny sprue nibs on the bottom of these seats, and then there's a sprue nib on the side, and then the rest of it is okay. And then we've got the ejector pin marks on this face here that we need to get rid of because they're going to affect the fit of the model. So no, they're not, because they're on the back. Sorry, I thought they would affect the fit of the model, but I thought when the pilots go in, so the pilots are basically going to sit in there like that. So the pilot's going to sit on that post, which looks pretty painful, and then that seat back is going to go in there like that. Okay, so all in all, bit of paint, bit of brightness and some colour and stuff, and we'll make it look, you know, half decent, so we see something through the windows. So there we go, that's that done. So the sprue nibs on there gone. Now on these little tiny control levers, we need to control stick, should I say? We need to first of all remove that sprue nib from the top of there. There's nothing much on the bottom, so we just give that a quick wipe. Now on the top here, I'm going to come in with my skinny stick, which is a soft sponge, and just rub it over the whole thing. That'll just take away any flashy sharp edges and just clean everything up. Just like that. And then use a knife just to scrape down these corners, just to take away. They've got a tiny touch of flash on them, and they're very, very sharp. Now there's a little bulge on the bottom here, which is actually an ejector pin mark. If you can see that on the bottom of the stick around this area down here. But I'm going to leave that because it gives it a little bit of a feature. Okay, not that you're going to see it really, but and then on the top I want to make sure I got rid of that nib completely. So the other thing we can do is come in with these little tiny PE sanders that are absolutely brilliant, and just go around like so. Just clean up in there. There we go, and they're in thinny PE sanders, by the way. There's a skinnier one there as well, like really thin. So look back at my videos, you'll see I've done reviews on them. So there's all our parts there now. I haven't done this one, have I? I haven't taken the sprue nib off of the bottom of there. There will be a sprue nib on the side here. We can take that away. And then I'm going to just, again with these, I'm going to run over the edge just to take away the sort of flashy sharp edge on them. Where's the other one? There it is. There we go. So there's all our parts. Just push them out of the way a minute, and then we can clean the bench off. So there's all our parts ready to go together. Now what you could do is glue everything together now, except for the pilots obviously, but you could glue the control columns in and then paint it all as one, or you could do it all separate. I like to do it all as one, because basically when you come to, you know, you've got to hold this and paint it, you've got to hold this and paint it, hold this. It's easier just to do it in one. So what I'm going to do is come along with my trusty extra thin, and I'm just going to put that seat back in and hold it like so, and let the glue do its work. Now if you look on here, we've got a little ramp thing on the back that the seat is supposed to sit on, but that puts the seat way too high an angle back. It should be more like that. So I think I'm going to put a piece of scrap plastic or something under there. So I'll glue this one in the same. Just get the glue in initially, because we've got a slot which is much bigger than the peg that's going into it. So okay, and I'm going to grab a piece of, now if you haven't got any yet, you need to get some. We need some 0.5 plastic card to do the engines with, because we need to make the engines better than they are. So grab my little box of scrap plastic, find a piece 0.5. That feels like 0.5 to me. I'll use my digital calipers. There we go, 0.5. And I'm just going to basically, needs to be about that long, doesn't really matter. And I'm going to glue this in the back and push it flush with the edge. No, it needs to be more than flush with the edge, because otherwise it won't touch the seats. And then we can glue that down. Get some glue on that strip. Get some glue on the other seat. And then basically what we've got there is our seats are sat more realistic. They're not sort of leaning back like racing cars. If you notice, the AMT kit is the same. That's got the same problem. The seats are laid back like cruising the strip in your 67 Malibu. There we go. And then we just check the pilots are going to fit. I'm sure they are. There we go, they fit beautifully. Okay, so there we go. Now when we test fit this, we may find that now, because I've got the seats up vertical, they're going to be higher, they may not go in. So we can do a quick check in the fuselage, and just check that it's going to fit in there. And yeah, we've got loads of clearance, so that's absolutely fine. So there we go, that's them in. And then we're also going to put the control sticks in. So we've got a massive hole for such a tiny part. So what I'm going to do, in fact no, I'm going to use the quick setting. Now you may not have quick setting, don't worry, just use the ordinary extra thin. But I'm only using quick setting so that I can get on Okay, so that's gone in. Drop that down in there. There we go. And then we can put a drop of extra thin just down in top, and then that'll all weld together over time. Make sure you keep your glues closed up because the fumes are not good for you at the best of times. And there we go. So that's our cockpit done. As simple as it is. And obviously not going to glue the pilots in because we're going to paint them separately. And the instrument panel is actually going to glue into the fuselage. On that part there, I'm guessing. So we shall see. So we'll do that separately. And in fact, we may even glue this into the fuselage and then paint it in situ. We shall see. So I need to let this glue go off now, so I'm going to leave this for now. Oh, one thing I am going to do, just again to break down those sharp edges, is go round with my extra thin, just brush around there, and it'll just take away those horrible sharp edges because it's slightly flashy. Alright, so there's our cockpit all done. You can see on the back that piece of plastic strip. Just cut a piece of your 20 thou plastic card and just push it in, a couple of mil under the back, just to get the seats to sit at more of a correct angle rather than have them all led back like they're fully reclined. Right, so we'll leave that for now, let that all go hard, and then we need to get some primer on there. Okay, so just it's the next day now, just pushing forward. We've got all our cockpit parts here, as you can see, and our pilots and everything. Looking at the instructions, the only thing we need to do then is to do this rear gun, the tail gun. So if we build that up and get that all painted, then we can put the fuselage together, because that's all we need to do. It's just the we've done the bomb doors, we've practically built the cockpit. We're going to paint that now, and then we've got the rear gun, and that's it. We can glue the fuselage together. So let's get on and do that. So here it is here. Let's get the instructions as small as I can. So we've got this rear gun here. Now there's a couple of things we need to be aware of. I've got the parts off the sprues and cleaned them up because, as I say, as we move on, I'm not going to cover all of the beginner things. As we move on, I'm not going to cover cutting parts off the sprue and sanding down the nibs and stuff. I'll do that off camera. I'll just, we'll just push forward. We can see on here, you see that 4 on there? That's showing you that this part here, 34, is on that side. And there is a difference in them because they've got these little cutouts and they need to be lower down. You can see here, cutouts are lower down than higher up. So we need to make sure we get that the right way round in relation to the gun, which has these cutouts here in the top. So they need to be up and they need to be down. So we need to bear that in mind. And something I didn't talk about before was test fitting. Now, I don't think we've done any actually halves together other than the drop tanks and stuff. But when we test fit these, we can see that when I put it together, we've got the pins in the holes. And what's happening, if I can show you closely, the pins are actually too long. So we just need to take a sanding stick. Take one of my zebra sticks. Just need to take a sanding stick and just remove some of the pin length, just so that we can get these to go together. And you can see now that that one's still a touch too long, so we'll take a bit more off it. And you can see now that when we push these together, they will go flush. There you go. You can see they will go flush there. So there we are. Job done. So what it's telling us to do in the instructions is to glue these gun halves together here. Okay, but we're not going to actually glue the pivot. So what I'm going to do here is put these two together, check they fit okay, and they do, they fit absolutely fine. We'll just get some extra thin on there and just brush that into the joint and let that capillary around. Okay. Make sure it's all even. And something else we could be doing is drilling out the end of these barrels, but I'm not going to because I doubt any of you guys have got the tiny drills needed for that, and they are very, very small, and I don't think it's going to really matter very much. So there we go, so that's that done. So now that's gone off a bit, we can literally come along and just quickly give that a sand. Give that a sand. There we go, that's that done. Now we put these together, and as I say, they've got to be down low with the slots here at the top. I'm guessing they're going to be the shell ejection chutes. Okay, so make sure we get these pins lined up and get that together like that. Now the other thing I'm noticing is with this glued together like that, this gun is quite floppy. Okay, and we want to sort of try and tighten it up a bit. So what I'm going to do is on the side without the pins, I'm going to sand it down just a touch and try and make the gun a bit tighter, because what we don't want is the gun to just keep falling down. It goes that way round. Okay, that's a little bit tighter. Just take a touch more off, and I think I'll take a touch off of this one as well. So we can go in there, and then come around here. I've just noticed we've got one small pin and one big pin as well, so there's another reason for making sure we get it all the right way around. This isn't working very well. That's better. Okay, so that's going to sit there now and not keep falling down on its own. And once we get some paint in there as well, that'll help. So we got that held together like that. And what we can do is just put a drop of extra thin around the outside. And just get it all pushed together, clamped up. And let the glue do its thing. So there we go. So we can let all those seams dry now, and then we'll give them a sand down, and then we'll get some primer on them. And we're back. Right, this is dried now. I've sanded that joint, and we can see here that the gun is all floppy, which we don't want. So piece of that 20 thou plastic card that we used earlier on the back of those seats there. Get a piece of that, and I can wedge that in behind and push it through so it comes out the other side. So it comes out the other side like so, and then that makes that gun tighter. Okay, so it's not so much that it's going to damage anything, but it's just adding some friction to it. You can see there it's really floppy. In fact, if we put it in that side, it might be better because there's a gap there already. And that's just going to give us that little bit of friction just to keep the gun in place. However, when we look at it here, you can see that it's not actually central. So it mightn't be a bad idea to push it that way. In fact, if I just put the piece of plastic halfway in, that's much better. So I'll get that piece of plastic card, and I'm going to use my quick setting. I'll use the ordinary because you probably haven't got quick setting. I'm just literally going to put a drop on there. Just a tiny drop, just to let that capillary down. And I don't want the glue to get to this side of the plastic card. I'm just gluing it into the housing. Keep moving that just in case a drop of glue gets on there. And we can see now, if I pull that forward, we've got some friction now. And that will actually stop our gun falling under its own weight. Just like that. And then we can come along with our cutters, trim that off, and then when it's all dry we can clean it all up. And or what we could do while it's still wet, we could push it down in, and then once that's painted and primed, it will disappear. Okay, and there we go. Our gun's now still movable, but won't fall under its own weight. So rear gun's all built, the tail gun's built up. We've got the cockpit and the instrument panel here mounted up on our block with blue tack. I've got the pilots sat on little blobs of blue tack on the end of a stick. This is a great way to hold your parts. Another way you can do it is just to super glue them onto the back of the pilots and then snap them off when you need them. But obviously if you can, use blue tack because it saves you having to clean the super glue up afterwards. So we're going to prime these. I'm going to prime the pilots white, but I'm going to do all this black. The cockpit, the instructions call out green. I've looked online and I think the cockpit looks mainly black, although the seats and everything look as though they were green on these early Ds. So we'll go with the green and then we'll do some black in there as well, and then we'll have the decals on the instrument panel on the side consoles there. I think there's also a decal for the centre console. So and obviously we're going to do the tail gun black, and we're going to make sure we pivot that all around to get the black in everywhere. We're going to paint around the inside of the fuselage here, and just go around the edges. I have gone around and cleaned up these edges because there was a bit of flash on them, so we're just going to make sure that when we have the gun in there, there's black paint, you know, you're not going to see any grey plastic basically. And the other thing I need to do, which I should have done when I did the cockpit, is spray inside these windows black, so that when you actually put the clear in, you don't see grey plastic through the edge of the clear. So that's what we're going to do now. I've got my airbrush here, got some of the black primer in there. So I think we'll do the fuselage parts first, just to get them out of the way because they're so big and cumbersome. So we'll go around the inside of here. This is the MIG Ammo one-shot primer. So if you just go around the inside of there, and then we'll come around the outside edge just to make sure we don't have any grey plastic looming around there. And then I'm going to come around to the front and just go around the edges of this window. Okay, it's always a good tip with clear parts. You can either put black magic marker around the clear part itself or paint the aperture that it's going in. What you don't want to do is see I've done it on that one. So it's obviously just the one side I forgot. This is what happens when you get old, you forget things. Just blowing around there. Okay, and then move around to the outside and just make sure we've got it all the way around. There we go. Job done. So that's that done. So now we're going to paint this gun. So we're going to push the gun right over that way, and then we're going to come in and blow in down the back of it, making sure we get in all the corners and everything. And then we're going to pivot it over, right over, and then do the other side. Just like so, and then we can pivot it up straight. Oops, rub all the paint off at the same time, stupid idiot. Just blow that in. Pivot it up, oh, come on. Straight, there we go. And then something I forgot to do, guys, I should have cleaned it, shouldn't I? I should have degreased it first, and I didn't, so hopefully we'll be okay. See, the airbrush got blocked there. Blocked again. So there we go, that's that done. Instrument panel. Obviously, if that instrument panel fits behind the cowling in the cockpit, then we'll have to do some seam work around the top edge, but we'll paint the top of it anyway, just in case. And then we're going to prime our whole cockpit black. Just like so, and all the edges of all the seats. And we need to make sure we get in here from every angle, even upside down, get underneath those headrests. Make sure we capture every single little bit. We don't want any grey plastic showing through at all. There we go, so that's that done. So we can put this back in the bottle, and then I'm going to paint the pilot's white. Okay, so there we go, a nice piece of paper there for you with some black paint on it. So the pilots are painted, well, the pilots and the gunner, they're done in the MRP Fine Surface Primer White. Really good stuff, really good paint. But very smelly. You need a mask and extraction when you paint it, so that's why I've done it off camera. But they're done now. So a lot of seam work to do on these. I'm going to put the first coat on. I can see the seams were still there around the helmet and stuff. So if you are doing these, if you are doing the pilots, you need to be practicing your seam work, your sanding, and basically getting rid of all the seams. But it's only really sort of the bust and above that needs to be done. The rest of it's not going to be seen, to be honest. So we've got our, as you know, we've got our cockpit parts painted here. So we can remove this gun. Yeah, we'll move that gun to one side and let that dry on its own. And we'll also remove the instrument panel. And now we're going to be doing some green paint on this. Now, the paint I'm going to use here, which is a Model Air colour, and it's green zinc chromate. It's roughly right for the cockpit. In fact, no, I'll use this one. This is more incorrect. This is a darker green. Interior green. This is a Mr. Hobby colour, H58. It's water based, so you can thin it with water, and it's acrylic. Do not confuse this with this one. This is cockpit green for IJN, Imperial Japanese Navy, but it's also correct for British aircraft. This is the colour for American aircraft. Americans used a different interior green. There's also another green which is called bronze green, which is a darker green, and that was used earlier in the war on like P-47s and stuff. So, but the green, this green colour apparently was mixed up at source, and variations of the colour and stuff appeared. But basically, you can see this is the green zinc chromate. This is the Mr. Hobby interior green. You could use this one. I'm going to use this one, and just basically paint all that, and then I think we'll pick out some details and stuff with a brush with some black afterwards. So I'll get this put on now. So what we'll do is we will get some of our, just because it's handy, I've got some of the AK high compatibility thinner. Grab my airbrush over here. Just check it's all cleaned out properly. So we can get this is one of the problems with Mr. Hobby, the tops really glue themselves on. So get the paint there, we've got a brush here, and we've got a pipette here. So I'm going to get some of this thinners in the pipette and just put a couple of drops in there, just so you can see. It's like 3 or 4 drops, nothing much. We don't need very much. Put the pipette down, put the lid back on the thinners. Always put your lids back on, guys. And then using the brush, I'm just going to take a couple of brushfuls of the paint and mix it up in there. And there'll be people saying you can't do that in the airbrush. Well, I just did. So there we go. Put the brush over there, put our airbrush down, put the lid back on, and then we can come along here and we can paint our cockpit green. So just check the flow. That's good. Oh, I didn't blow back. Always blow back. Just lay it on nice and thin. Again, getting in from all the angles. Now, some of you may be saying that's wrong, it shouldn't be green. Well, you could be correct, but I can't find anything that says it definitely shouldn't be green, because I can't find anything that only, well, because I found green ones online. I also found ones that are painted black online. And the trouble is, like with most older aircraft, you know, if you see a cockpit of a B-52H in current use, that's the colour it should be. But when you see them restored, the person that restored it could have used the wrong colour. They could have got the wrong information. But the fact that I found them green and the instructions tell me to paint it green, and this is a monogram kit and their colours generally tend to be pretty good, I'm going for the green. I think I'm going to do the floor like a dark grey. But certainly the sides of the consoles, the seats and everything here, I'm going to do green. And also I believe on the back of the pilots, we've got part of their seat is on their back, so we're going to just paint that green in there. There we go, keeping it away from the helmet, then I won't have to paint it white again. There we go. And I think my air pressure is a bit high. I turned the pressure up for those primers. I should have turned it back down, but never mind. So, just get another coat on here. There we go. May as well use the paint up. And I think maybe just for a bit of interest, I might do some of this here green. Just put some green down these sides here. Perhaps get on the roof as well, you're not going to see it. Just add a bit of interest, and because they tell you to do it green. Because also the D's had the green translucent material over the top of the instrument panel and down on the side panels, which I never understood what it's for. I'm guessing it's to let sunlight through, and the green takes away the glare. I really don't know, but The later models didn't seem to have it. Again, if anybody knows, if you're a B52 expert, please tell me. Okay, so there we go, that's our cockpit painted interior green. And let's put a little bit more on these pilot seats. Just to... if you're doing a later B52, then the cockpit is generally sort of dark grey, I think. And then the seats are like a light grey and all the panelling is light grey. Just check your references is the best thing. Best thing you can do. Check your references. You can't go wrong. So I think we're out of paint now. Yep, we're out of paint. So we'll give the airbrush a clean and we'll let that dry. Right, so that's dry now. You can see I've painted the floor. I used a Viejo dark sea grey. And just applied it by brush. Now these Viejo paints are wonderful to use on the brush. They're fantastic for brush painting. They're also great for airbrushing, but they tend not to stick too well to bare plastic, so you need to use a primer with them. But other than that, they're great. They're not very smelly either, so it's they're pretty safe. So yeah, they're all round. They're pretty good paints. They're also very easy to dispense. You don't have, you know, lids all sticking on and everything because they come in these little dropper bottles. And if you are a person who wants to count your 50-50 and 60-40, you know, if you use a dropper bottle for your primers or your thinners, you can do 4 drops of paint to 6 drops of 6 drops of thinners or whatever. They also do these here. They're called Game Color. They do various different sets with different. You can give different names. This box has had something on it, but basically this is a set of game colors, and this is basically like almost your primary colors, really. But there's some interesting shades. Like you got this. You got bone white, you know, which is quite a nice flesh color, I find. And then you've got this one here for a dark flesh. Then you got your white, you got your black, and there's 3 metal colours in there as well, which are also quite nice. But I tend to like using these, and if you use them with a dish like this, you can basically just put some water in one, you put a few drops of paint here and there, and just use it. And that's what I'm going to do when I come to paint the pilots. We'll use these and we can mix up some colours and mix up some shades, and yeah, just to keep things a little bit interesting, I'm going to have one Afro-Caribbean pilot, and I'm going to have one white pilot, and the gunner will be white as well. So that will sort of add to things a little bit, particularly in this day and age, I guess. And also, when it comes to painting the cockpit, I'll also be using those as well. So the next thing I'm going to do is get these decals on. Now, I'm doing the decals now because the paint is... This Mr. Hobby paint has a bit of a sheen to it, so it's quite good. I'm not sure how well it's going to stick to this, but we'll try it. We've got spare decals anyway, so we'll see how well it comes out, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to use this from a decal water, and I always keep little pots of water, as you've heard me say before. And what I do is I use this as a kind of siphon. What I do, I put my finger over the end like that, lift it out, and then it's sort of giving me a few drops of water there. We don't need much. You don't need a great big huge vat of it. We're not going over any particularly difficult shapes, so it doesn't need to be warm. Normally, if I'm doing, like when I'm doing the main airframe, I will use warm water. So decals are here, and we're going to see what these are like. I'm not sure they're going to be very good because they are very old. You see here 1989, so they're 31 years old, so I'm not sure they're going to perform very well. Sometimes what happens, you put them in the water and they just immediately just crack up. So I'm going to get my decal scissors here. It's not always a good idea to use a knife to cut out decals, particularly if you're cutting up to the edge of them, because a knife tends to raise an edge. Whenever you cut anything with a knife, it tends to raise an edge, so be wary of that. Okay, so in fact I'm going to come right across the bottom here and cut these 2 white strips off. I'm not sure if I'll be using these decals at all because I think they're going to be knackered. You can apply a varnish to them, which will help them not fall apart. What I'm doing here is I'm cutting around, and I'm forgetting that I'm doing this for beginners. You can see on here you've got the actual decal itself, and if I can catch it in the light, you can see you've got a shiny edge. That's your carrier film. There's a film over the top which carries the decal and keeps it all together, and you need to look for that. If you haven't got that carrier film, then you need to be cutting your decals out individually and cutting them as close as you can to the edge. And in some cases you might decide to actually cut that carrier film off, get rid of it. So there we go, we got that out of there now. Put these safely out of the way so you don't get any water on them, because once you get water on them you'll ruin them. Now also on here you can see we've got the letters. Often you have numbers. This has got CC, BB, DD. We want to get rid of them because they will float off and become decals themselves and stick to your model. So we'll just take those off like that. We'll get rid of that CC. We'll take off this side console, and then we've got the center console here. So that's all scrap. Okay, so we'll try this instrument panel first because it's the biggest piece. So I'm just going to put that in the water. You can see straight away it all curls up, and that will just soak up some water. And then I'm going to get a pair of tweezers, and I think I'll also put one of these side consoles in now, get that soaking as well. And this one here. And this paper is extremely absorbent, and you will see they will curl up. Now if you put them in a bowl of water, it's always good to put them face down, okay, rather than face up. It stops them curling up. But I never tend to use a bowl of water for the small stuff like this. I just use a drop, because it's all you need. Right, so over here I have a micro set and micro sole. And this is a little dispenser you get from Premium Hobbies, and this is where I keep all my decaling stuff. And I'm going to get a cotton bud. So once that flattens out, I know it'll be ready to go. So I can take my micro set and sole. Set you put on first, sole you put on after. So you've got a holder here for the lids as well. So you can put the lids in there as well, like that, as you can see. Okay, that was lucky. I looked up and the camera had actually switched off, and I've just looked back and the camera had actually switched off when I looked at it. That is spooky. I just looked to see that you were actually in shot and found that the camera was switched off, and it had actually switched off at the moment I looked at it. Weird. Anyway, so I just want to check that my decals are ready to move, and we can see if they slide on the paper then we're good to go. And it looks like they're not quite ready yet. They're not sliding on that paper very easily. I'm kind of wondering if they've had it. Yep, they still haven't let go. So what should happen when they're ready to go, they should slide easily on the paper. I think they may need a drop of warm water. I'm going to have to go and get some warm water a second. Okay, that works. So yeah, warm water. I've soaked most of it up now, but it actually has got them separating from the paper. We can see now it slides quite easily. It's still stuck a bit on this corner. We can see this one here. This one slides around. Okay, and you want to make sure they slide around on the paper quite easily. If they're stiff, you like to break them. So get them to slide around easily. Let's just give that one some more water. And you can see this end slides really easily, but this end is still kind of stuck down. It doesn't want to move yet, so we'll give it a chance to soak in. But that one there is sliding easily, so we can put that center one on. Now I'm using micro set and micro sole, as I said. You don't have to, but it's a good product to have. There are many different products on the market. I find the set and the sole works better than any of them. There's these two here. There's Mr. Mark Softer and Mr. Mark Setter. They do the same sort of thing, but I find the set and sole made by Microscale works the best for me. Sometimes you need something a bit hotter. There are other chemicals on the market, but there's some not available in the UK, like Solvaset. I don't think you can get over here. So anyway, I'm going to use a micro set and micro sole. This brush here is used for decals and nothing else. Don't ever use a brush that you've used for painting for doing decals, because if you've washed it out in thinners, if there are traces of thinners left in the ferrule, this is called the ferrule, as soon as it gets on your decals, they'll just be destroyed. Okay, so use one brush for your decals and not for anything else. Okay, it's always a good idea. And I'm just going to put a drop of micro set on there, just like that, and that will help that decal sort of sit down. Okay, so now I can take my piece of paper and I'm going to move the decal to the edge. Okay, now I will cover decaling in more detail when we do the main aircraft, but just for now I'm going to just do a little snippet video bit in this, like this, and then we can slide that decal off of the paper, and you can see it doesn't want to come off. You just pull the paper away, and then we can move that decal around, and we can use the tip of our tweezers to move it around, as long as we're careful. Okay, and we just get it on like that. Alright, and then we just position it in place. And then we can come along with the cotton bud and just touch the cotton bud on there. God, it's pouring down outside, I can hear it. I don't know if you can hear it, it's ramping against the window. So, and it's not windy, so it must just be pure volume of water. So there we go. Can't stop thinking about those B-52s I saw yesterday. A friend showed me last night on Facebook, apparently about 8 o'clock last night, they fired one of them up. So I would have loved to have heard that, but that was many hours after I left. So that's that one in place. Okay, now what we could do to make it a bit more interesting is have it over those two, but I'm going to leave it like that because I'm thinking when we look in the windows, we'll see that there. And it's only a representation. Okay, so now that's gone. Now that's gone down. Where's my brush? Here it is. I can take some of the micro sol, just take a drop of micro sol on the brush, okay, and then just dab that on the top. Now what will often happen is the decal will wrinkle up, and that is what's supposed to happen. And the reason I'm putting this on is because if you can see on there, if I show you close up, you might see that carrier film on the edge is hanging over the edge. And what the sol will do, it will soften it and it will make it wrinkle and pull down. If it doesn't, we leave the decal to dry for 24 hours or whatever, and then we can go around with a very, very sharp knife and just trim it. But I'm just going to put a drop of the sol on the top, make sure it gets to all the edges, and then let it do its work. And we come back in a minute, we might see it start to wrinkle up. So clean the brush off, get the micro set, put some on here, just like that. Okay, brush it out, and then we're going to grab our panel again, pull the decal to the edge, okay, holding the paper like so, and then we're going to use the brush just to slide the decal off the paper and then pull the paper out from under the model. Put the paper to one side, and you can try and use the brush to position the decal, but it doesn't tend to often work very well. It's better to use something pointy, but you're not pushing down. You don't want to be trying to, you know, rip through the decal or anything. And this decal is too big, it's oversized, so that's okay. So we'll pull it out like that. Okay, so that edge has gone there. We're making sure it's right along that edge. It's going to look quite good through the window because you're not going to see a lot of it, but you're going to see some of it. And then come along with the cotton bud and just roll it along, and that will just squeeze any excess water out from underneath it. Okay, and I'm just going to reposition it again so it's on that edge. Just like so. Okay, and then I'm not going to put the sol on yet. Get some more micro set, put it on here. Just get a drop more. Get it nice and wet. And then again we can take the brush, get the paper out of the way, and then again I'm going to use the tweezers just to move that across like so. As you can see, again it's oversized. But again, we'll put the micro sol on there, and that should make it pull down on the corners. So I can just roll that along, got a bit of debris or something on there, so we change ends. we go. Okay, so that's that, and then it's this instrument panel. So we get the micro set again, brush that all over there. Now, I'm not sure how well this is going to take because it's a matte paint, but we're going to give it a go. You would normally not put decals down on a matte finish. And for this one, because it's bigger, I could use my finger. I can just hold it in place, slide the paper out from underneath it, and then we can come along with our tweezers and position. I've got a lot of water on there, so I'm just going to take some of that water away. Okay, not putting it down properly, just getting some of the water out. And there we go. Alright, I'm just going to pull it down a touch because it's a little high on that side. As you can see, it doesn't want to move, so you just keep gently tapping it until it moves. You don't try and move it over, you just gently tap it and it will go. There we go. Just like so. And they're going to come along with some micro sole. Get some on the brush. Brush it onto there. Brush them onto these side panels here. So that one needs to move. If it will, it needs to just come back a touch. I'm not sure it's going to move. No, it won't. This is the thing, you need to make sure you get your decal positioned, because once it starts to dry, the only way you're going to move it is damage it. You can actually try and get under it. I'll show you now, just in case you do mess up. If you want to, you can try and get under it and lift it, but it's very, very dodgy once you've put this micro sole on. You see how soft it is? See how easy it tore there? I just ripped that just because I caught the edge of it. I've got another piece on my brush there. I'm just going to put that back on. Luckily it's in a hidden place, so it's not going to be seen, but I'll just put it back there. And you saw that. I'm glad I did that because you can see just how easy it is to damage. All I tried to do was lift it up and it completely just dissolved. So you can see these edges have become really soft and they'll probably just roll down now, and that's the micro sole that's done that. Let's just brush this on the top and let it do its thing. And once you have put micro sole down, you should generally, I mean, I'm just messing with this because I've been playing with decals for years, but once you've got your sole down, you should leave it, don't touch it, because they will, as you saw then, they will just literally dissolve. And there we go, that's our decaling done. Okay, so we can see they've been about 10 or 15 minutes now, and if I can catch it in the light, you should be able to see they're starting to wrinkle up. You see this instrument panel here is all wrinkling up. Leave it, do not touch it, just let it do its thing. You can see that there, that corner where I damaged it, that's all sorted now. You can see it's all wrinkling up and all going out of shape. So that's the thing to do, just leave it alone and let it sort itself out. It will dry down absolutely flat. And the reason you use these products is sometimes when you're doing a model aircraft, say, or anything, a tank, a car, whatever, you might have to put a decal down over, say, a vent. You may put a decal down on the front of a radiator grille, for instance, and you don't want the decal to just sit on the surface. You want it to sink down in and bite in. And what you do is you put the micro set on, you put your decal on, you just sort of get it positioned and then roll it down with you can get one of these squeegees, or you can use a cotton bud or whatever, push it down with a brush, whatever, just get it to go down. Then you put some more micro set on it. Okay, leave that for a few minutes and then put your micro sole over the top. Micro set aids the adhesion, micro sole softens the decal, so that's why you're putting that underneath and this on the top. But it also says, and a lot of people miss this, if you actually look on here, it says wait a few minutes for the decal to soften, then press the decal down with a piece of soft moist towel or a cotton bud, Repeat as necessary or use microsol for more decal softening strength. Okay, so this is the bit I meant. Carefully brush more microset on top of the decal, and a lot of people miss that, and in fact I don't think I did it there on a couple of them. So you put microset on the underneath and on the top. All right, so that's the best thing to do. And this little holder thing, it's only a few pounds, and it's from Premium Hobbies down in Weston. I do promote Ed's products because they are good. This little thing, I mean, it holds your microset and your microsole. You've got a slot there for your scissors, a couple of places there for brushes, or I've got cotton buds in there, and I've got my squeegee in there and my brush in there as well. And it's all there. That's your decaling station all taken care of. And then when you've finished, you just pick that up and you put it over there. And then when you need it, you just grab that, and there's everything you need for decaling. And as I say, you want dedicated scissors, you want dedicated brush. Don't share with anything else. You want nice sharp scissors to get a good clean line. And when I said about not cutting with a knife, what I'm talking about, I'm going to do one of my demonstrations here again with paper. What I'm talking about is when you cut with a knife, okay, so say this is what you're cutting, okay, if you cut it with scissors, you're actually slicing it, so what you end up with is that kind of thing. Yeah, you've cut through it, it's cut through. When you cut with a knife, what you actually get is this, okay, so your knife goes through to the bottom, and as it comes through, because it's got a wedge on it, it pushes up an edge. So you can try, if you cut a piece of plastic, what have I got here? If I take a piece of plastic here and I come along with a knife and I cut, and then you will feel there's a raised edge on there. I don't know if you see it on the camera, but there is actually a raised edge. It pushes up a trough. And one of the people actually suggested in one of my earlier videos, it sounds like a great idea. You've got these raised panel lines. When you want to, put them back, go along with a knife, all right, and it pushes up an edge, and then if you wanted to, you can feel what you've cut with Mr. Servicer and end up with a raised line. I might give that a go and see how it works. Sounds like a great idea. So anyway, let's push on. Oh, I've got my plastic protector. I tend to keep these protectors for brushes. It saves them getting knocked. So there we go. It doesn't stop them getting knocked, it stops the bristles getting knocked. Prevents the bristles from being damaged when they are knocked, should I say. So there we go, they're wrinkling out, and you can see already in the time I've been talking to you, that's sort of pulled down a bit already, and we can see there were sink marks and stuff in the instrument panel. I haven't worried about that, I've just left it because from what you're going to see of it, it doesn't really matter. But there we go. Right, so pushing forward, we need to get some painting done. Now I don't want to do any painting on here because the decals are soft, so we'll have a quick look at painting some pilots' faces, and I think then we'll call it a day for this video. And I'm going to use, I have got these new brushes from Anise.io, and I did a review on them. It's more like a promotional video really rather than a review. I'm going to see what they're like, and I'm going to get them out of their packet. So we have got, apparently they're really, really good. Now I've never used them, but I said I would use them in this video. So this is a 5.0, a 10.0 and a 20.0. So I'll use the 5.0, it's the biggest one, and they feel absolutely lovely. Now, as I said, we've got this little mixing palette here, a plastic tube. Okay, so I've got my mixing palette, and I've got my tray of paints here. So I can pull them out of their box and we can put them over here, and then we can select. And I'm going to use this one, the white flesh, first. This is called Bone White, but I like it as a flesh colour. So I'm going to put a drop of that in there, just one little drop like that is enough. Okay, and I've also got this one here which is called Beastie Brown. Okay, so we're going to put some of that in there as well. Okay, and it's quite thick. When you compare it to the Model Air, you can see that this Model Air is very thin compared to this. So you just need the one tiny little drop. And then we're going to get some water. Put some water in there. Okay, that's all we need, tiny little drop. And we're just going to get some water and put it in the paint. Okay, so there we got our paint. We got, well, a nice thin consistency, so it's easy to brush. And then we can just come along here and paint their faces. So the reason I'm doing their faces first, I'm going to work downwards. So I'll paint the face first, and I'm going to get paint on his oxygen mask. Then I'll paint his oxygen mask. Okay, and I'm going to get paint on the jacket, and then I'll paint the jacket, and you know, so basically I'm working downwards. So I'm just going to put some paint into here, and as you can see, it's kind of laying on the surface and it looks quite thick, but because it's water based, once the water dries out, it will completely pull down. Okay, so that's that one's. Okay, you can see his face there. That's that one done. And then we're going to do the others. Okay, and there we go. There's our faces done on all three guys. Okay, so as you can see already, the paint is starting to pull back in, and you get the features of the face coming through. I like to do this work under a magnifier because I'm old and my eyes are shot. But I've just been looking. The moulding detail in his faces is really quite nice for 70-second scale for something this age. But here we go. You can see that's our gunner there, and then we've got our two pilots here. Alright, and these are going to get a wash afterwards, so everything will darken up. I will give them a brown wash once they're finished, and that will pick out all the detail, and it will also darken everything up. So don't worry that everything looks a little light at the moment, and also that's because you can see the white sort of shining through. So there we go. So I'm going to call that a day for part 6. Only reason is my camera or my phone is playing up. It keeps saying it's got no charge. So I don't know if the battery's shot or what. So we'll see what happens. But I'll leave it for now. So that's going to be it for part 6. Part 7 we'll come back and we'll get all this cockpit all painted up. You can see that decal's pulling down lovely now. And what I am going to do is just come along with a brush and just push that side down. Yeah, we'll have to trim that off, I expect. So I'll show you how to do that. But basically, yeah, they're going down lovely. So once they're dry, they'll be all sorted out. So yeah, thanks for watching this one. Stay safe, happy modelling, and I'll see you for part 7 where we'll get the cockpit finished, we'll get the pilots finished. I may do some pilot painting off camera, we'll see, and we'll go from there. Remember, don't forget to hit the like, hit the subscribe, and if you want to see notifications of my videos, hit the notifications bell. And one other quick thing I want to say, if you're sending comments on the bottom of the videos and I'm not responding straight away, something is going on with YouTube at the moment. I'm hoping it's just a temporary thing. I normally get a message every time someone comments. So say I'm at the pub, I got my phone with me, I'll get a message to say, you know, Mervyn has said, great job, Nige, thanks very much. And then a couple of minutes later, another one comes. I only seem to be getting about 30% of them. So, you know, I'll see a comment come through and respond to it. And then when I go back and look at my comments under the video, I see I've got a load there that I never even got notified about. So if I'm not responding to your comments or questions straight away, I'm sorry. YouTube is playing up with something. I've also had somebody email me to tell me they're not getting any notifications. If you do stop getting notifications, the best thing to do is unsubscribe and then resubscribe, hit the notifications bell, and that should help it out for you. Okay, so see you all soon, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.